Well, thank you to everyone that's tuning back into another CSE listed issuer update. Today, I am talking to James Walker. James is the president and CEO of ARS Strategic Mining. James, thank you once again for joining me. How are you today?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm having a pretty good day so far today. Been a pretty good week. And generally, things are moving with the company fairly well, so not bad on my front.
And it also seems like the company, like ARS Strategic Mining, has had a lot happening over the year so far. But I want to start this conversation off about talking a little bit about not only fluorspar, which is what you guys are focused on, but a little bit about the US-China trade dispute. China is restricting sort of imports for fluorspar. I want you to give us a little bit of an insight into why investors should be paying attention to this.
So I think it's pretty important, actually, because I think the global landscape for trade has really changed. I mean, particularly over the past few years. I don't see international relations mending very quickly. And what this has actually led to is a much larger focus on domestic production of minerals and resources, because that assumption in the past that you could source the materials that you needed for your own domestic production, I think that assumption has now sort of gone by the wayside. And increased government investment and support for domestic businesses to mine their own domestic minerals has really come back, and you're seeing the funding and the effort go back into there. Because of, the exacerbation of tensions, I mean, Ukraine war as an example, has driven a greater wedge, I think, between places like the United States and China, or the United States and Russia, and the world's becoming a bit more polarized. And I think as the US focuses on industries that are going to need increasing amounts of fluorspar, like battery minerals for electric batteries, or even its own computer software, electronics, the fluorspar that it would need for the manufacture of those items, they're going to have to be concentrating far more on a secure domestic supply rather than those international supply chains.
And so this is where ARS Strategic Mining comes into play. You guys are exploring and developing a project that's focused on fluorspar. For our audience members that might not know the vast uses of fluorspar, can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. So they would be the majority. Typically, when you say fluorspar, no one's heard of it. They don't realize that it's one of the most ubiquitously used industrial minerals in the world for industry. So it's used in the production of steel, aluminum, hydrofluoric acid, fluorine. It's used in the manufacture of electronics. It's used in lithium-ion batteries in the cathode, the anode, and even the electrolyte. It's even used in the cement and the glass industry. So it's a major foundational base. And I think a lot of the reason why, say, it might not be as appreciated in North America is because a lot of those sort of products have been imported in the past. Whereas, say, for instance, if you were to go to Europe and you were to talk to Germany, then they would be all over this type of product because they're very familiar with it. They realize it's a crucial component of their industry. And so there's a much more developed understanding around this type of mineral. But we're a very well-timed company in the sense that this is a domestic producing company producing for North American industry. And so as the world does actually switch towards more domestic supply, we're very well positioned actually to take real advantage of that transition.
Why is the region of Utah so important when it comes to fluorspar?
So I wouldn't say we chose Utah, but the fluorspar chose Utah. But it's got major advantages to the fact it's there. Even on the critical mineral front, fluorspar is a critical mineral. It does receive much easier permitting times and consideration when you're trying to put an operation like this into production, because it's already classified as vital to the economic security of the country. But Utah is very mining friendly, very industry friendly. And just as an example, because we're now building a manufacturing operation in Utah, Utah government has issued us a $10 million bond for the purposes of constructing a manufacturing facility. So they've been incredibly supportive. And actually, because of this government support that we've received and the state support, while it's been a difficult market for a lot of junior mining companies, that funding that's come in through a non-conventional means has allowed us to actually keep working and building and progressing, while sort of raising equity for in the traditional manner has been a lot more trying.
I also noticed that the company was ID'd in the Utah Economic Report. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that?
So obviously Utah is very big on creating domestic jobs within the state, and the return of an entire industry to the United States is obviously fairly big news. And this will be the first permitted producing fluorspar operation in the United States now for a couple of decades. And so it's really sort of emblematic of a return to the industry that was sort of shipped overseas. And the fact that that's occurring in Utah, just sort of, it merited special attention from the government. So when they were preparing their economic assessment, they did include us as sort of a representation of how Utah is assisting the country in establishing those old sort of that old industries that were shipped overseas previously.
James, when we started this conversation, I mentioned that the company has had a lot of news over the year. Why don't we dial it back to January 2023? Talk to us a little bit about all of the significant news and what the company's plans for the upcoming latter half of 2023 are.
Well, I suppose the most significant news this year is we finally closed our USDA funding. That admittedly took a very long time to close. If I'd known it would take this long to actually close, which was over a couple of years, I'm afraid we have pursued a different financing route. But we finally got that money, and that enabled us to, first of all, buy a 50-acre industrial estate, industrially zoned, with its own water wells, its own utilities, big manufacturing facilities off the highway. And then we took that facility and we moved our metallurgical lumps plant all the way onto site. We contracted a group called SFC Welding to come onto site and begin the construction of our lumps plant. And so the construction on that has begun. We also managed to complete the rail spur construction work. So now we're actually able to take our fluorspar product at our industrial site and ship that anywhere around the country through Union Pacific. We brought in Knight Piesel, tailings dam expert as well, to do design work on our tailings dam for the purposes of our manufacturing operation. And we're in the process at the moment of closing those bonds that I mentioned earlier in the conversation for the purchase of a second manufacturing plant, flotation plant, to produce that higher grade acid spar product. So I think that's the most significant news that's been this year, but there's been a lot of movement and a lot of activity so far in 2023.
I think that speaks to you and your team and your background on being able to accomplish all of this. For our viewers that might not be familiar, you want to talk to us a little bit about your background?
Sure, I'm very happy to do that. So I am a mining engineer. I am got professional certification with the BC Engineers and Geoscientists, so BEng. I do have also a master's in mining engineering as well. Prior to this, being involved in the mining industry in North America, I did actually work in the United Kingdom for the Ministry of Defense in an engineering capacity where I was involved in mechanical design and even nuclear reactor designs for the submarine programs. But sort of 15, 16 years of chartered engineering experience in that department before I moved over to North America. I also have qualifications in project management and accountancy, and but I had to fall very heavily on some professionals in the fluorspar industry, like Raul Sanabria, who's part of our board, who used to work for the largest fluorspar manufacturing company in Europe. Paul Sargent, who's our VP of Exploration, who's got about 30 years of experience in geoscience and geology, and another director of ours, Bob Lee, who runs several large fluorspar mining operations internationally, so Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and producing hundreds of thousands of tons of product already for industry. So, my background was very technical, obviously more executive and management now, but I obviously rely heavily on the expertise of our board and our management.
Of course. And so you have a strong team, you have a great project in a mining friendly jurisdiction, and not much competition, which is always good.
Yeah, well, certainly always good to be the only one of your kind. It certainly leaves you a lot less to worry about.
Absolutely. Now, so as we go into fall of 2023, what can investors and our viewers expect from the company? What should they be looking out for?
So one thing we wanted to do for quite a while is we're sort of waiting for the summer slowdown to be over. Is people have been desperate for us to show footage of the construction work, and so we've been putting that together. We've been building up our marketing so it's ready for after Labor Day. We can start ramping that up a little bit more just to communicate what we're up to and our message a bit more succinctly and clearly and more widespread. But I would be looking for the construction of that lumps plant to go up first to produce the first product out of the operation. I would then be looking for the bonds to close and the purchase of that second plant to be then shipped over, where we'll then start the construction of that and get that into production too. And ultimately, it'll be handing over the mine to a mining contractor so we can start throwing ore into those plants and getting going with a full capacity mining and manufacturing operation of fluorspar products for U.S. industry. So that is the upcoming plan.
So you and your team are going to be busy for the next couple of months, or for the next while, which is great.
Yeah, certainly. It's good. It's going to be a bit of a busy time, but it's nice to be working. It's nice to be building and doing something, because the waiting around can be the depressing part.
Absolutely. Now, we always encourage our viewers to go to your website, sign up for your press releases, read up on your team, read up on your project, and of course, if they have questions, to reach out directly to you guys. Where can they go to sign up for your press releases and read up on the company?
So you can go to our website, aresmining.com. There you can sign up for a newsletter so you can receive our monthly updates, press releases, and any other updates we wish to inform you about there. It will also give you the history of our news. Obviously, investors always do your due diligence. Junior mining can be a risky business to be investing in, but I think we're sufficiently developed now to de-risk a lot of that investment. We are actually building something, and we're sufficiently developed. But you can read more about us on the website. Follow the links there. There'll be information about management and directors. Please look through the news and the progress that we've been making over the last couple of
years. Our team at the CSE wishes you and your team nothing but success as you move forward in this path. I look forward to hosting you on again, maybe towards the end of the year, where we can provide another update to our viewers. James, anything that you want to cover and get out to not only our audience, but any of your investors that might be watching?
Well, I would say obviously watch this space. There's a lot coming down the line. Things always move a lot slower than you want. I've even stopped sharing internal schedules because things always get more delayed than you would hope. But the good part is that we are progressing positively. It's all going in the right direction now. All the funds we need to complete a full-scale manufacturing operation in Delta, Utah are now in place.
To everybody watching, you've been listening to James Walker. He's the president CEO of ARS Strategic Mining. Of course, it trades on the CSE under the symbol ARS. James, I appreciate you taking the time to not only educate myself a little bit on this industry, but our viewers as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for having me.